bit of a lag to the.
Yeah, just a tad bit.
All right. So, welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's live discussion with Don Willi about Game of Thrones Season 6 predictions and other such stuff coming up. I'm Marc from Enchantment of Eternity. Here to join me is Mr. Bend the Knee himself, Don Willi.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Don Willi. If you guys do not know me, please make sure to check out my channel. I do Game of Thrones profiles, theories, and also live discussion videos and other stuff as well. And thank you, Marc, for having me. This is exciting for me.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. Great to get into a bit of a discussion here. So, we want to talk about some of our Season 6 predictions, but I'm not going to go too much into depth. We're just going to briefly go through some of the stuff going on, because I do plan on doing a video of a series of videos of Season 6 predictions in October. So this is kind of a preview for that. Plus, I wanted to get your take on some of these predictions as well.
Cool.
All right. So the first topic I wanted to talk about is the one that everyone always brings up whenever discussing Season 6, the one all the hubbub's about, is Jon Snow. Is he dead? Will he be back next season? I don't think I've actually heard your opinion on this one yet. So what's your take on the whole Jon Snow speculation debacle thing?
Okay, so I do believe that Jon Snow is, air quotes, dead. But I do think we will see him in at least 2 episodes. I think we will see him in episode 1, where the Night's Watch is going to figure out what to do with his body. And I think we are going to see him as like the last shot of episode 10, with Melisandre, reawakening him, and basically, if I'm envisioning this correct, I think we're going to hear a bunch of ruckus at the wall. Melisandre will have already said, her spell to wake him up. And we're going to see, basically Jon's body kind of propped up against the wall somewhere, eyes closed, head kind of slumped, with the camera kind of, slowly zooming in to him. And then at the very last second, his eyes open, he gasped, and then end of season 6.
Oh, right. So you don't think he's going to be resurrected till the very end of season 6?
Yes.
All right. So his dead body's just going to be sitting somewhere throughout season 6? Is that what you're thinking then?
Yeah, I think that, in order to sell people on, the whole Jon not coming back thing, I think you have to somehow dispose of his body, but not in a manner that actually destroys him completely. Listen, if they actually burn Jon's body so that he doesn't come back as a white, oh man, that one right there, I think people will automatically stop watching, and season 6 will have like the lowest ratings of all time.
All right. So more of like, rather than actually burning his body on screen, it would be like, oh, someone mentioning we burned his body, but you don't actually see it, so therefore they didn't, just faking it out, make you think that they burned the body when really they didn't.
No, I don't even think that they're gonna burn the body. I think that, right after this, the Night's Watch is probably gonna be like, well, damn, okay, well, he just brought the wildlings over here, and the wildlings, are outnumber us by like 1,000 to 1. So, I think it would be best if we not piss these people off. So we'll just hide Jon. We won't let them know what happened. Obviously, if they burn the body, someone's going to see that big fire. So it's like, we just gotta hide him somewhere and just hope he doesn't come back as a nice zombie.
Oh, right. Okay. Huh. That's interesting. I don't know. So my take on it was that they were going to Jon Snow was going to be resurrected at the beginning of season 6. I don't know if maybe not episode 1, but by like episode 2, and that he would be out and about during season 6. But they're just they wouldn't show him in the previews or anything or in the trailers because they want to sort of keep it under wraps. But there's been like a lot of sightings of Kit Harington around the Game of Thrones studios in Northern Ireland. Like he was seen in June, he was seen in July, he was seen in August. So the Watchers on the Wall refer to it as the worst kept secret in Westeros. They think that he's definitely going to be out and about for season 6.
I mean, that's the thing. See, now, unless it happens to be the ultimate fake out where it's like, yeah, Jon Snow is dead. We didn't say that, that he wouldn't come back as somebody else, but yeah, there is no more Jon Snow. So, I mean, look, Kit Harington himself said that he wasn't coming back for season 6. And executives from HBO, every time someone asked them, they've been like, I think 4 or 5 different execs that have all said Jon Snow is dead, deader than dead. The guy who actually filmed the episode, the director of the episode, was like, John, according to the script that they gave me, it said at the very end, Night's Watch stabs John falls on the ground and dies. So,
yeah. Well, there is the counter argument that there's precedent for other movies and shows outright lying to people about what's coming up. Like the most common one used is for Star Trek Into Darkness, they outright said Benedict Cumberbatch is not Khan. And of course he was Khan, but they repeated this over and over again. So there's nothing to stop these producers and execs from just blatantly lying in order to throw people off the trail.
Yes, and if they happen to be lying, then I have a special app here from. I'm not even sure if it's a licensed Game of Thrones app, but when you tap on it, it gives a nice little message. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but hold on.
All right.
Shame. Yeah. So,
that message could turn out to be lying.
Yeah, they're gonna have to definitely take the walk of shame if they have all lied.
Yeah. Well, granted, like someone like the director, like he may not know. He was just told, "Oh, he dies at the end of the episode, and that's it." He may not be aware of what's going on in season 6, or at least at the time. And maybe even some of these like execs, like the head of HBO, maybe he's not quite aware at the time. But people like Dan and Dave, people who are a close knit circle, they would definitely be lying if that is the case, though.
Oh, then they're taking that long walk from the Scepter Baylor to the Red Keep, barefoot and naked. Like South Park would say, floppy wieners and all.
Okay, so let's move on to another topic. Let's talk about another character who there's been a lot of speculation on, is he dead or is he not dead, and that's Stannis. And I think in this regard, we're both of the sort of the same mind. But what are you thinking of Stannis?
I mean, listen, look, unlike the Jon Snow thing, I think that we can believe the HBO website when it says that he was killed by Brienne. Now, for those of you who may doubt that Stannis is dead, let's think about something here, right? Brienne's entire reputation rests on the fact that you have people from Renly's camp who believe that she just up and murdered Stannis. But she's been telling people, look, I saw a shadow with the face of Stannis that killed him. And finally, she gets confirmation after chasing him for years. This isn't a month or 2 months. No, she's been chasing him since before the Battle of Blackwater. So, I don't understand why people would think at the last second, while she's swinging the sword, she was just like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I was gonna swing at his head, but I'm gonna swing above his head, and yeah, follow me, Hurt Stannis, and maybe you can find some redemption. I'm like, no, no, no. And then there was the story that she told Podrick about why she followed Renly to begin with, about how when she got humiliated at that ball that her father threw for her, that Renly was the only one that that stood up for her, and even though she knew that he didn't like women, she followed him out of devotion for the fact that he treated her kindly when no one else would. So yeah, Stannis is deader than dead. I think you can take that to the bank. I'm going to bet a few gold dragons on that one.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I've been in the same mind. Like, as soon as I saw that scene, I knew what was going to happen. I'm like, Stannis is definitely dead, but there's going to be a bunch of people on the internet saying he's not dead because they didn't actually show him die, which kind of pissed me off that they didn't show him die. But I could see what they were trying to do, because when Bran swings the sword, and then they cut to a shot of Ramsay swinging his sword, that was meant to be like a surrogate of like that's meant to show Bran killing Stannis, but through Ramsay's eyes, basically. And that's the like editing gag I've seen used on many other TV shows. In fact, I think Game of Thrones used this before as well. But I don't think they should have done that for such an important character as Stannis. I think an important character like that you need to see die. Otherwise, you get all this speculation that he's still alive, which I don't. Yeah, I totally agree. There's no way Bran wouldn't have killed him. She sees herself as like the executioner who's carrying out a lawful sentence against the rightful king Renly. So there's no possible way she would have any doubts or compunctions about swinging that sword and killing him. So I think he's definitely dead. Yeah.
Yes, the one true king is no more.
Yeah, and I think that like compared to Jon Snow, because some people will argue like, well, if you think the producers are lying about Jon Snow, then they could be lying about Stannis as well. But I think there's a huge difference there, because there's a lot of setup. And my brother did a whole video about why Jon Snow is so coming back, where he mentioned all this setup reasons why Jon Snow would still be alive or come back to life. Whereas with Stannis, all the setup is showing that he's dead. Like, he lost his army, Bran's wanting to kill him. All the setup leads to him dying. So that's where I think the difference lies.
Yeah, like episode 9 was the beginning of the end for him, and then by episode 10, it was just like, okay, he got the snow to melt, but then right after that, he hears that half his army has deserted. He finds out his wife has committed suicide, and then the one person who basically convinced him that, oh no, if you do this, forget about if you do this. Think about from when we first get introduced to Stannis. From the first introduction, he's burning effigies of the seven gods. He's basically dismissing everyone's counsel except for Melisandre, with the rare exception that he listens to Davos about a couple of things here and there, right? He murders his brother basically because he's told that, your brother didn't deserve to be king anyway. He throws the leashes into the fire and names Robb Stark, Joffrey, and Balon Greyjoy. And he was willing to kill his nephew. He was willing to do all of this because Melisandre told him. And then the one person who should have been like, you know what, I'm going to have to fall on my sword with Stannis at the last second is like, oh shit, I done fucked up and gone. So.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, now I was just looking at the chat where JD the Dragon says serves him right for letting his daughter burn. I have to agree.
This is true. This is true. This is true.
All right, so let's move on to our other predictions. First, I want to announce some of the characters that are, well, some of the new characters coming into the show next season and some of the characters returning. So here's some of the characters. They're not been completely 100% confirmed, but there's been like sightings around Game of Thrones Studios, so they think this is what's looking to be the case. But it looks like we're going to get Walder Frey back this season, maybe even the Hound. And there's been talk of them casting for an outlaw company. And we're also going to get a character who sounds like it's another Frey, so maybe a new Frey character. They're also, of course, this has been around for a long time, that Arthur Dayne might be being cast, and a young Ned Stark. And Euron Greyjoy is probably being cast, and Randall Tarley. And there's also been sightings of Rakan and Osha around the studio, because so it looks like they'll be coming back for season 6 as well. And just recently, we heard that they have cast someone to play Small John Umber and a new Lord Karstark. Yeah, so to get into some of the specifics, I'm just going to sort of break it up by region here. And we'll start off with the Riverlands, because we're hearing about Walder Frey and the Hound. And there's also a talk of like a priest that might sound like the priest that was taking care of the grave digger. Could be. So what are your thoughts on the Riverlands? Because if they're going to have the Riverlands in the show, the question is which like sort of major character is going to go there. I mean, because it could basically be anybody.
I mean, well, you know what? I'm thinking that Jaime is actually going to go to the Riverlands. I think that after he gets back to King's Landing and not only finds out about Cersei's trial by combat and, you know, what led to the trial to begin with, and then also after Marcella being killed, I think that basically, you know, they're going to get into a big argument. She's going to tell him to leave, you know, and go to the Riverlands or whatever. And he's like, okay, fine. I'm out of here. You know, thank the Seven for that one. I'm gone. So I think he's going to go to the Riverlands. Now, how Walder Frey is going to play into all of this, I think, you know, and I could be totally wrong because I was wrong about this for season 5, but I think that we are going to get Sansa picking up the role of Lady Stoneheart in some form or fashion, and finally getting revenge on Walder Frey. I would like to see the return of Edmure and Brendan Blackfish, but who knows about those two, because they haven't been around since season 3, and here we are 3 seasons later, and there's no particular mention of seeing them anywhere in Belfast. But I'm not sure if they actually filmed the Riverlands scenes in Belfast. I think they filmed the Riverlands in Iceland. So, you know, it depends on if they film in Belfast or the Riverlands, or if they film in Iceland, because, you know, people just might not want to go to Iceland for anything. So,
well, I think like they would film like the studio stuff that taking place inside a castle or something in Ireland, and maybe some of the exteriors in Iceland. In fact, that's one of the things is that apparently the actor who plays Jaime has been spotted going to Iceland to film some scenes, so that's why they think that Jaime is in fact going to be in the Riverlands in season 6.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, as for As for Sansa taking Lady Stoneheart's place, I actually think that Sansa is probably going to be involved in the Northern storyline in season 6, and that way it's probably going to be completely different books. But yeah, so I'm more on board with my brother's theory that they're going to have the Brotherhood without banners, and Brendan Blackfish will be sort of taking Lady Stoneheart's place as the new leader of the Brotherhood without banners.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, we definitely need the Brotherhood without banners, uh, because to have them cut from the show for so long, with the part that they played, and just in the hanging of the phrase at the end of the Storm of Swords, it was just kind of like, man, it was a letdown because, for one, I happen to like Thor Samir. Thor Samir was a great character for the show,
Yeah.
and even Beric Dondarrion, because although Beric Dondarrion was talking about how he lost pieces of himself every time he died and he was brought back, the actor that portrayed him just kind of gave off this very kind of heroic air about him, and I was like, oh man, I was like, oh, this guy's gonna be great, and then he was like, wait, that's it, no more. So I hope they bring back the Brotherhood without banners, and I hope they keep the same cast because I love the cast that they had, even Tom Seven Strings and oh man, who was the archer? Damn, I forgot the archer's name.
Yeah, his name escapes me. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that those guys were perfectly cast, and I do hope that they bring those guys back. And can't forget about Brendan Blackfish, because that guy was badass. At his brother's funeral, when Edmure is being Edmure, of course, he is able to light the pyre. And it was just funny because he looks at the sigil for the wind. He just
Yeah.
tosses
Yeah,
it.
makes sense enough.
Yeah, man. So, whoa, hey, Mark, you still there? I think we might have actually lost him. Oh, uh, I think we might have lost Mark. Oh no, Mark, if you're there, say something. Man, this is kind of yeah, this is kind of crazy. It appears that I am actually taking over for Enchantment of Eternity at this point. I don't know what happened, guys, but all right. Hopefully he will come back very, very soon. Yeah, Jerry the Targaryen Steamboat said we have a hype invasion. Apparently, apparently. Um, Man, I don't know how to get him back. Mm-mm-mm. And I don't want to end. I don't want to just end the stream in the middle, you guys, because that would be kind of crazy. Hold on, let me see if I got another. If I got another. Hold on, what is this? What is this? Let me see if I got another message from him or something. Yo, that would be crazy if I wound up taking over Enchantment of Eternity totally by accident. But all right, so the Riverlands. I guess it's time to go to the north. as it were. So yeah, so the North. All right. So as far as I know, I looked up who is the current Lord of Carhold, and that is Rickard Karstark's uncle Arnor. And Mark, you're back. Thank God.
Yes, my system cracked. I had to be
Oh,
so,
okay. Yeah, I was sitting there. I'm like, what happened?
yeah, now my computer's a bit old. Sometimes it gets overloaded and I have to reboot it. That's all good. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic, which is the Bran flashbacks. Because, I mean, there's been talk of Arthur Dayne and Tower of Joy, young Ned Stark. So my thinking was that's all going to be told through Bran looking through the weirwood tree and seeing like flashbacks and stuff to the past. Was that your take on it as well?
Yeah, I mean, it makes the most sense because you got to think about it. We haven't seen enough of Bran. Like we didn't see him at all in season 5, right? And then even with the books, pretty much what we got with the books, was where we left off at the end of season 4. Other than him kind of learning a couple of things here and there, we never got anything concrete. So if this is digging into Winds of Winter territory, like if this is stuff that George actually has told Dan and Dave, then yeah, we're getting flashbacks, and Arthur Dayne, awesome. I want to see what he's gonna look like on screen, and also just the whole, like, I wonder who they got for a young Ned. It would be funny. It would be funny if they got the guy from Lord of the Rings who looked like he could have been Sean Bean's brother. Like if he's still young enough.
Which guy are you talking about? Are you talking about Carl Urban?
Was it Carl? No, not Carl Urban. There was another guy in Lord of the Rings, and if we're not able to find it quick enough, chat room, please help me out on this one. But let's see here. In I guess the second Lord of the Rings, there was a guy who played his brother, who looked like
his brother.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
right. I'm trying to remember his name now.
Yeah. All those damn names. Why?
I don't know. I think he might be a bit old now. I think he might be in his 40s or late 30s by now. So I don't know. But yeah, no. Because we've heard about them casting for young Ned Stark, like when he's like 10 or 11 or something. But we haven't heard anything about who's going to play him at the Tower of Joy, because they have confirmed that castle in Spain is going to be the Tower of Joy.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're bringing back, Sean Bean and just kind of doing some de-aging on him, then you have to hire somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
it could be a fairly unknown actor, since it would be a small role, but you never know.
Mm-hmm.
But the question I had is, do you think, because we did see a bit of the Tower of the Joy flashback in the first book, and I was criticizing season 1 for not including that, but it seems like we'll get it now in season 5, and that they were saving it for that. So do you think we'll actually see like more than we did in the book? Do you think we'll actually see confirmation of R plus L equals J, like Ned going into Lyanna and her giving him Jon Snow? Do you think we might see that on screen in season 6?
Yeah, we're gonna have to, because if they happen to do it the way that they did in in book 1, in season 6, people are going to be pissed. Especially for people who have read the books. It's gonna be like, all right, you know what? We have waited for confirmation for years, and at this point, you're talking 20 years since the first book came out. So, yeah, they're not going to be able to get away with, all right, yeah, we're just going to do a version of Ned's fever dream that he had in the damn Black Cells. And, yeah, we're just going to leave it at he defeats Arthur Dane, however it is that he defeats him, and then that'd be the end of it. Like, no. Look, other than them actually showing Jon's body burn, that's another thing that would absolutely tank the season.
Right. Yeah, no, I think they were setting up for R plus L equals J heavily in the previous season, so I think they're going to reveal it this season. Because there's all that setup that they could have done earlier in the show, but I think they were saving it to closer to like right before they were ready to reveal it. So I think they're getting ready to reveal it this season. And so in the chat. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, now if it happens to be that Mira is also Jon's twin, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna be like, you know what, fuck you guys, okay? Because there has been absolutely no setup for that one at all.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do that because they haven't been set up. I mean, that doesn't mean it won't still happen in the book, but I just don't think that will happen in the show. So the chat rooms answered the question of who played Faramir's David Wynnum.
Thank you very much. See, that right there is what you get with the hype. You know, the hype is all around us.
Yeah, he's a pretty good Australian actor. I've seen him in a couple of Australian movies. He's pretty good. All right, so let's move on to another topic. Let's talk about the Iron Islands, because not only is it looked like we're getting Euron Greyjoy, also there's talk about apparently a lot of speculation that the Kingsmoot scene is being filmed this week, because they're talking about a scene with the pirate and a lot of people shouting over another and like a whole bunch of people gathered. So it sounds like the Kingsmoot is going to happen in season 6. So my thought on this was because a lot of people were thinking that we'd see Euron Greyjoy and Yara Greyjoy there. But I personally think that we're also going to see Theon there, because I don't think they'd show us a scene like that without a major established character on the show there. And I don't think Yara is established enough. I think we need someone a bit bigger like Theon. So what were your thoughts on that one?
Well, as far as Theon showing up for Kingsmoot, well, the question would then have to be what happens, like how does he get separated from Sansa? You know, like where does Sansa go? Like, obviously, if he's getting back to the Iron Islands for Kingsmoot, then it would have to be that he runs into Yara somehow. Yara takes him back just in time for his uncle to insult him and be like, "Oh, he's not even a man. How can he be king if he's not a man?" You know. Yeah. So it's. Like, I'd have to disagree with you on that particular point. I do think there is going to be a Kingsmoot, but I don't think Theon is going to be there, only because, you'd basically be setting him up for failure.
Well, here was my thinking on that, is that Yara, instead of vying directly for the Seastone chair like she did in the books, she'll use Theon as a puppet. Since she knows people will be against her, you're just a woman, so she'll put up Theon, but really she'll be like the force behind it. Or, that was one theory I had. And I was just thinking Theon would be there just because the show doesn't seem to like to go to new locations without established characters. Just like they didn't want to do Dorne without someone there, so they sent Jaime there so they could have an established character in Dorne. I was thinking the same thing would be true with the Iron Islands.
I mean, it could be, but I mean, like, damn, I don't think I'd want to see Theon go through the whole humiliation. It's like Balin already humiliated him by, calling him a whore and all this other stuff, and talking about how he wasn't paying the guy in price. And then after he got flayed, and his favorite toy got sent to Balin Greyjoy, he was like, "Oh, he's not my son. He's not even a man." So imagine if he shows up to the King's Moot. Yara's like, "Hey, yes, here was your prince, and he did everything he could, but he got captured and betrayed and all that." Yeah, like imagine now you got Euron there also. Like, how can he be your king when he's not even a man? I am your king. I was able to.
Well, here's the question: Do you think that Victorian is going to be on the show?
Like, we haven't heard anything about him, but I want him to be there because I want to see him, do all of that cool stuff he does on the high seas with Makoro.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, like, we haven't heard anything about Makoro. We haven't heard anything about possible Theon. So I hope that that there happens to be something with Victorian, but my friend Don the Kraken Wit speculated that they're probably going to merge Euron and Victorian. So we'll see what happens with that one.
The same thing. Yeah. Well, I just think that there's been like clues that they're skipping over the Marine involvement in the Iron Islands. Like, I think the Iron Islands will have nothing to do with Marine. For one thing, they haven't established any horn, so I don't think they're going to do the horn dragons. And plus, in the show, Daenerys already has a fleet of 93 ships. She doesn't need the Iron Islands to come and give her ships because she already has ships. So to me, it seems like they're bypassing that. But like, who do you think the Iron Islands will focus on in this show? Do you think they'll attack the Reach like they did in the books?
No, because you know what? If they attack the Reach, then they have to show the Reach, right? You're not going to be able to just do the whole thing of, oh yeah, they like, you can't do what they did in the books where it's just, oh yeah, we heard about them attacking the Reach and then them not showing it, because then you've kind of wasted the characters. So they would have to show them attacking the Reach, and right now there's nobody there. You got to think about it. Mace Tyrell hasn't gotten back from Bravos yet. Olenna Tyrell, I'm not sure if she's still in King's. No, I think she left King's Landing, but they don't have.
Well, they didn't specify.
Oh, okay. Well, but they don't have the rest of the Tyrell brothers. Like Loras is locked up, Marjorie is locked up. The rest of the Tyrells do not exist, and I don't even think they introduced Paxton Redwine at all either. So, they're
well. That's actually where I'm thinking where Randall Tarley might come into play, like, because they're going to introduce him with Sam meeting him on his way to Old Town, but then he might be involved, and like since he'd be in the Reach, since he's like the great warrior of the Reach, he might be involved in the fight against the Ironborn.
And maybe that mean bastard will die. I'm sorry, just like the whole concept of him. Telling Sam, yeah, on your 18th birthday, you're going to go to the wall or else I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, well, seldom do we get justice on Game of Thrones, though, but sometimes we do.
Yeah, shoot. Yeah. So far, not too much.
Right.
I mean, I think the last justice we got was Tywin dying.
Oh, there was Meryn Trant. That was some justice for you.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
All right, so let's move on to the North. So I kind of alluded to some of my theories on the North, because mainly what I was thinking is there'd be the Northern Lords will try to overthrow the Boltons. Like we got a bit of this in the Dance with Dragons, but it was through Stannis. But now Stannis is dead. I think they're going to do it on their own and hype up Rickon maybe as their figurehead, or possibly Sansa. I think Sansa might be involved in that storyline. I think we might meet Rickon and the Umbers through Sansa's eyes, and Brienne's going to be her guardian. Like Brienne's going to meet up with her and like sort of be her bodyguard and help her try to take the Boltons. That's basically what I think is going to happen in season 6.
Very plausible. Very, very plausible. While you were away temporarily, I actually did look up who is the current Lord of Carhold, or at least the person that they might be casting, and that was Rickard Stark's uncle Arnulf.
Oh right, yes.
Yeah, so you know what? I'm thinking that they still could play, even if they don't have the Manderleys. I think they still could play the angle where the Karstarks are against the Starks, but they are kind of trying to make it seem as though they're on the Stark side. So when they hear about Rickon coming, it's like, oh, okay, this is our perfect chance to take out the Starks once and for all. But we'll just make it seem as though we're with them. So that could be what they're doing, but it also could be that that they have forgiven the transgression of the former king in the North, Robb Stark. But I doubt it.
I think there might be like some infighting at first, and because the casting description described the guy that we now know is the new Lord Karstark as someone who's ruthless and like vicious and whatever. So I think they might have to sort of overtake him or fight him in order to unite the North. So that might be the conflict in season 6, is trying to get the North on their side, and he'll be like the biggest obstacle. But the other thing is I think I read somewhere both the Umber and the Karstark will only appear in about 3 episodes. So I don't think it's going to be a huge arc. It would just be maybe an obstacle that last 3 episodes that they need to overcome. And I think maybe with the new Karstark, it might be a new character sort of based off of some of the ones in the books, because I don't think they'll have the individual political family, because there was a lot of political stuff going within the Karstarks in Dance with Dragons, which I don't think they're going to have any of that in the show. I think they're going to simplify it and like condense them all into one character and do something totally different.
Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I just looked up here on Wiki of Ice and Fire, and actually the current Lord, the Castellan of Carhold, was Arnulf Karstark, but the current Lord is Harry Karstark, also known as Harry, and he is the eldest son and heir of Lord Rickard Karstark. So he could be the Karstark that they cast, even though we're not exactly sure about that one.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, you'll have to see. Yeah, I think it will be like a combination of different Karstarks into one character. But I think the character, from the casting description, it sounds like he's going to be like a villain type. He's going to be like a ruthless, sort of bad guy.
Well, my question for you is, do you think we get to see Rickon riding Shaggy Dog?
I don't know. I think he might have gone too big. I've seen the actor recently, and he's gotten quite a bit older. So I don't know. We'll have to see. If I remember, wasn't Shaggy Dog the biggest direwolf? I know he was one of the most vicious ones.
Yeah, I know he's the most vicious, but I don't know if he was actually the biggest. And I mean, plus we remember we haven't seen Shaggy Dog in a while, so it is very possible that Shaggy Dog is way bigger. And then I think like Rickon right now should only be about maybe 7 or 8, or like at most 10. So I mean he might still be small enough to ride Shaggy Dog.
Yeah, no, that's true. If Shaggy Dog has gotten really big, then yeah, he could be small enough. I don't know. We'll have to see. All right. So yeah, let's just go ahead and move on to the next topic, and let's talk about the possibility of a prequel series. Because there's like I know the HBO exec Michael Lombardo talked a bit like he's saying it's still a possibility. There's no like official groundwork being made, but there was some rumors going around the net that seem pretty legit, but they're still not confirmed. That some HBO execs are looking into um, feeling out certain actors to play roles in Robert's Rebellion. Like it's been like I don't know. It almost sounds too good to be true because the rumors is like they're looking at Viggo Mortensen to play Rickard Stark and like Liam Nielsen to play John Aaron and stuff like that. So, do you think that means it's most likely that Robert's Rebellion would be the Game of Thrones spinoff if they did do one?
Well, yeah, if they were going to do a prequel series, Robert's Rebellion would be the most logical. One, for economic reasons, because you wouldn't have to worry about having as much CGI. Two, it's one of the things that takes place outside of the books in terms of there not being, the detail that you have to follow. So they could to a certain extent decide to go a little off book, and people wouldn't even realize because they're like, while we have a lot of the major details, there may be certain minor details that they can tweak a bit, or maybe that haven't been fully fleshed out, so they can kind of play around with it and see how do they get to these certain points. Then three, as far as the number of seasons, it's something that they can do in, I would say a maximum of 3 seasons. And if they were able to get some of these big name actors that apparently have like been rumored to be approached, it wouldn't be a long-term commitment for them. So
Yeah.
So I'm hoping Robert's Rebellion, but there are a couple of other series that I would also like to see, but I doubt we're going to get. And somebody from the chat room actually brought up one, which is The Long Night.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Now, it would be cool to see that, but I kind of think that's more of a legend, that something they'd want to leave vague and not go into too much detail. I mean, that was kind of my thinking on that. But with Robert's Rebellion, I totally agree that if they did do it, they would have to limit the amount of seasons. They would have to, when they first started the show, they would have to have a clear vision of mind. Okay, we're going to do this for 3 seasons, or we're going to do this for 4 seasons. They couldn't just leave it open-ended because it's a finite story, and you know where it's going to end at the start of, at the end of the rebellion and before Game of Thrones starts. So I don't know. That kind of makes me think that they wouldn't do it because they would want something that could be more sort of ongoing. But then again, it would have more attraction to Game of Thrones fans who know nothing about the books because they'd be familiar with some of the characters. They would know Ned and Robert and Tywin and stuff like that. Whereas they did something like The Long Night or something in Valyria or Duncan Egg, they wouldn't have any characters that show audiences are already familiar with.
Yeah. Now, what they also could do if they wanted to be bold is turn Robert's Rebellion into feature films. Game of Thrones, I think, is huge enough that people would go see Robert's Rebellion as a trilogy of big budget action movies. Because remember, Robert's Rebellion is, for all intents and purposes, a war. Nothing else. There isn't a lot of political intrigue as there is with Game of Thrones, where a lot of the war stuff, we don't get to actually see. Like even like with Game of Thrones, we hear about the battles, but we don't necessarily get to see the battles. You wouldn't be able to do that with Robert's Rebellion. With Robert's Rebellion, people are like, if you decide to have a scene on the Trident with Robert and Rhaegar and doing all of this crazy stuff, and then you don't see Robert's warhammer breaking through Rhaegar's chest plate, forget about it. You have failed. So,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
they could show.
Oh,
they
go
could
ahead.
skip over. They could skip over some battles, but show important ones like the Robert's Warhammer. Like, no way could they skip over that.
I mean, well, you couldn't really skip over the Battle of the Bells either, and also Eris with the wildfire, because I mean, if they were gonna do that, they would have to, I guess, start off with the tournament at Harrenhal, or just before the tournament at Harrenhal. So I mean, like Robert's Rebellion, for all intents and purposes, could start off with like something with the Mad King Aerys, then like right after that, the tournament at Harrenhal, Rhaegar and Lyanna going, to wherever, and then kind of escalate on from there. But like I said, unlike what they've done so far, where they've been able to kind of skirt the battles, you couldn't skirt the battles with Robert's Rebellion, because the battles are the thing that are talked about so much.
Yeah. No.
So it might be better for them to do feature films if they can.
Well, I actually agree. That's what I always thought. That's kind of why I was opposed to the idea of Robert's Rebellion being a spin-off TV series, because I thought it would be better suited for feature films, like a film trilogy. I think it would be better because the story is compact enough where you could fit it into like 3-hour length films. Whereas if it was a show, like, it would be limited. Like, it couldn't go for very long. But the big question is HBO gonna? It's more of HBO's hold on it as far as movies goes. Like, they're the ones who probably would rather keep it for themselves than put it out there as feature films.
Well, now the question I would have too is like, all right, if you didn't do Robert's Rebellion, let's say they decide to do something like Dunk and Egg, right? And Dunk and Egg, again, they could do for economical reasons, but the big problem you have with that is George is still writing the Dunk and Egg series, and supposedly he plans on writing all the way up until Summerhall. So, you're still talking Egg right now in the books is like, I think 12, and by the time Summerhall comes around, he's like nearly 60. So, that that would be very harrowing to do, because you'd have to keep on recasting Dunk and Egg every few seasons, and like, do you do the second Blackfire Rebellion, the third Blackfire Rebellion, the fourth Blackfire Rebellion? There's just so much that it's kind of like, well, not knowing what they've actually done, like the in-between parts that George hasn't written yet, could they do that and not piss off a bunch of people with the deviations that they would have to do? Like, if they decided not to go with any Blackfire Rebellions at all.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I haven't actually read the Dunk and Egg books yet. I was waiting. I know they were going to come out with like a compilation of all the stories in one book this October, so I was kind of waiting for that to buy it. But from my understanding of it, it's a bit more like there's less characters. It's a bit more focused than, say, A Song of Ice and Fire. Is that correct?
Yes. Basically, it follows Sir Duncan the Tall, and it's his first meeting with Egg, who becomes Aegon the Fifth, and him teaching him to be a squire. He's a hedge knight. He's working for a bunch of different lords, and just kind of the stuff that they get into. You got an appearance by Bloodraven. You got an appearance by Darren Blackfire II. you have an appearance by Aemon before he, like I think like right before he goes to the Citadel to become a Maester. I mean, and so far they only have 3 books, and he meets Egg when Egg is like 9 in the first book, 9 or maybe 10, and then by the time you get to the 3rd book, it's only a couple of years later, so it's not any big time skips. So in order for them to do that, either they would have to do huge time skips in order to bridge the time in between seasons, or or they would have to wait until George writes more books to see like what other details are in there. So I mean that's the only kind of thing that's a little harrowing when it comes to doing that. Now the other thing that I would like to see them do, that I think that they're never actually going to do, is Aegon's Conquest. I would love to see them do Aegon's Conquest.
Right.
I don't think it will ever happen though.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. That I'd love to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's another thing that they prefer to leave as a legend. More of a like something you read about in history books. But I think it would be really cool to see it.
Yeah, that and the Dance of the Dragons. I mean, they did mention the Dance of the Dragons. I mean, they've mentioned kind of all of this stuff, but it's just that, what could they actually afford, and what would George allow them to do?
Yeah,
so,
I mean, but as far as affording goes, like their budget, since Game of Thrones is like getting a ridiculous amount of popularity, the budget's getting bigger and bigger. Like they've done a lot more in season 5 than it did in previous seasons, and I've heard that it's going to get even more in season 6. So maybe by the time they get to a spin-off series, they'll have acquired such a huge audience, they'll have a gigantic budget. But I guess that depends on how good the audience goes for the last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones, because so far it's been gaining every year, but I suppose it could always dip off, and if that happens, then they might have to do something a bit more low-key as a spinoff.
Yeah. I mean, well, we'll see what happens with that one. Hopefully it doesn't dip off. I mean, listen, hopefully the quality doesn't dip, because I know a lot of people had problems with season 5, especially Dorne. People in the chat room, had big problems with Dorne as well. So,
well, yeah, I think everyone had a big problem with Dorne, but I think season 5. I think the best way to describe it is a mixed bag. Like it had some awesome stuff like Hardhome and Dragon Fighting Pits, and then it had Dorne. So you had like really awesome, really shitty. So hopefully season 6 will be better, because granted, like Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons weren't that popular books in the first place, so it was kind of, they had the hardest task of adapting those books.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see what happens with those.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our last topic, and this is something that you want to talk about, is how the show will end compared to how the books will end. Because I know you were telling me you think they might end quite differently. I know I did a video about this a while back called My Thoughts on Adapting Unreleased Novels. And I laid out a plan. I made an analogy about a road trip across America, saying like for the first 5 seasons, Dan and Dave and George were traveling along the East Coast, but now that they're going off books, they'll be traveling on, one will be going down the south, one will be going on the north, but they'll meet up at the landmarks, and at the very end they'll both meet at the same place and have pretty much the same ending. What were your thoughts on it?
I do agree, but I think that we might see some deviation when it comes to the very end, because there are still many of us who want to read the books, and we don't want the entire thing spoiled for us. And I think George is very aware of that. So, I think he may have given Dan and Dave one ending, and he might have a different one. Maybe not drastically different, like, the the show was going to end with Jon and Daenerys, deciding to get married, sit on the Iron Throne, have kids. And then, in the books, oh, yeah, we didn't kill off Stannis. Stannis is still alive, and Stannis is the one true king. I don't think that different, but I do think it could be like whoever is like the last man standing or last woman standing in the books could be different from the show.
Okay, right. I mean, my understanding is that George did share like exactly what his plans are for the ending is. So I think he wasn't like holding anything back or changing anything. I think he did tell them generally what he was planning on. But I think the difference will come in is as he's writing the books, and The Dream of Spring is still like a far way off. Things are going to change in the process. So by the time he writes the books, it's going to end up looking very different from what they did in the show, because the show is going to be working off an outline, whereas the books. But if George if there's someone different, like sitting on the Iron Throne, say for example, at the end of the book series to the end of the show series, I think that would be because George kind of changed his mind on that as he was writing it. So in that case, I don't, because there was a thing a while back where he said fans have correctly predicted the ending of the books, and he said that he's not going to change the ending because of that. He's like, he doesn't care about like sort of surprising people, and he's like, I'm still going to stick with this ending even though some people already know what's going to happen. So I think the difference will come in the details. I think all the major plot points will probably be the same.
I mean, I understand. I mean, and my point was more so that with the books he might have like he has already laid out, or at least he already has said, okay, these people are going to live, these people are going to die, and this is what's going to happen to the realm at the end of it, right? And he may have told these guys, look, this is what I'm going to do, and let's just do me the courtesy of changing around a couple of details so I can still kind of surprise my fans. But then by the time the fans had already whoever figured it out had already figured it out. It was like, all right, these guys got it, but they're not going to know that they got it. So it's all good. I can still keep on doing what I'm doing, and then they might be thrown off because the show will be different.
I just think that George is he's probably just gonna try to stick to his plan and do what's right for him, what he feels is right for the books, and not try kind of mind the show, really kind of try to put that out of his mind and just focus.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. No. I don't mean mind the show. I mean, I think like he may have told Dan and Dave that he has a certain thing that he's going to do for the books, and just so it doesn't become a conflict of interest, just please don't do exactly what I'm doing in the books for the ending.
Oh, right. Okay.
So while
that's possible.
Yeah, so while there may be people who have already figured out the ending to his book, they might wind up not knowing that they figured out the end, not because he's not telling anybody, but because if they are watching the show and, they've been hearing for the longest that the show and the books are basically going to have the same ending, they might be sitting there, either doing some end zone dances, or they might be saying, oh, damn, I thought I got it right. And then however many years later, when A Dream of Spring comes out, then the whole thing gets reversed. It was like, oh, I had it right this whole time, and I thought I got it wrong because of the TV show.
I don't know. I think that could be right, but I think it will be kind of different. Like all the details definitely will be different, but I think it's going to come more in the process of making it. I just think because Dan and Dave are going to go off their own way and do their own thing. So I think just by doing that, they'll end up having something not completely different, but a lot different than what George did, because they'll have different ways of getting there. Like, the funny thing is because I read this article recently where George was talking about characters that the show left out that he wasn't happy that they left out. And one of them was Loris's brothers, Willis, and the other one, I can't remember his name at the moment. But he was saying, like, he wasn't happy that the show left these characters out because he says they still have important things to do towards the end of the book. He's like, I didn't just put them in there for willy-nilly. I had reasons that they were in there. And so that's one example of how the show is going to be a lot different on how they get to that, because apparently those two characters will have a part to play and they don't even exist in the show.
Yeah, and I mean the same with like John Connington and young Griff or Aegon. Yeah, and again, I had major issues with them leaving out Aegon and John Connington because, and I've explained this to a few people, and some of them have gotten it, some of them are just like, oh, I think you're wrong. And for people in the chat room, I know this is kind of on maybe a 5 or 10 second delay, but tell me if you agree with me on this. There is no way that Varys could have fully been on Dany's side, because he was going to let Dany die in season 1. I think they didn't decide until later on that they weren't going to use Aegon, and they were just kind of like, well, we have painted ourselves into a corner, but, for the people who haven't read the books, we can just kind of explain that away by saying Varys did what he thought he had to do. and I just think it is an absolutely bullshit omission.
Well, I don't know. I've had discussions with my brother about this before, and I don't think it's too big of a discrepancy, but I do agree with you that the show didn't know what it was doing in season 1, because I don't think they had fully planned out how they were where they were going as opposed to the books. I think in season 1 in particular, they were following the books a lot more closely because they didn't really know what they were doing. And then they looked back on it and they realized, oh, we shouldn't have followed it so closely because we actually want to go a different direction. And there are other examples of this, like Beric Dondarrion and other stuff, but I think you're definitely right that with Varys, by having him be involved in the plot to kill Daenerys, is that at the time they were just following the books really closely, and they didn't realize that we're actually going to leave out Aegon, so this actually makes a difference. So now they're going to retrospectively try to justify why that exists.
Yeah, so like I said, I had a problem with that. I'm trying to overlook it. I'm trying, but that is such a glaring thing. Like recently I've been very nitpicky about plot holes. So yeah, and any plot holes now is just like, no, it is not a pinhole. It is a freaking a wormhole sized hole in my mind now.
All right. Well, I think that's probably where I sort of differ from you a bit, because I don't think it's that big of a deal personally, but that's just the way I look at it. All right. Cool. So I think we could probably end our discussion there. Thanks a lot for coming and having this Game of Thrones discussion with me. It was really good to get your opinion on some of these things. So we will be back next week to talk about some theories on how we think the overall Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones will end, which will be on your channel, Don Willi's channel, next week at the same time. So make sure you guys check it out. And yeah, thanks a lot for joining me today.
Listen, I thank you very much for having me. You reached out to a small guy like me when you didn't have to, and I greatly appreciate it. So, I hope that I can. I hope I have provided your subscribers with some good entertainment and some some good commentary. You know, that's what I came here to do. So thank you again.
Yeah, and to any of my subscribers watching this, make sure to check out Don Willi's channel and subscribe, and make sure to definitely check me out on our discussion next week on this channel.
Yeah, and to anybody, any of my subscribers who happen to show up here, you know, the hype train is still rolling, and if you are not subscribed to Enchantment of Eternity, you make sure to do that. You know, this guy makes awesome videos, so yeah, thank you to Marc, and you know, thank you to everybody in the chat room, and thank you to everybody who will be watching this later on.
All right, thanks, guys. See you later.
Good night.